Okay. Oh, that was cute. So pretty much I'm just going to check in because I've been AWOL for a while. And I look super cute. Because I was actually just on the floor doing water changes on several of my tanks. So I believe in the last video I had mentioned that there has been a lot going on and that I was having quite a few issues and that was why I hadn't been posting in a while. To elaborate on that, let me explain. Are done? Okay. Um, I have been going through some pretty bizarre happenings. I'm sure some of you who follow me saw a video up where I was hysterically crying, having a really hard time. And that's really only a portion. Kids. So right before that video, and that video was only up because I had no other way of sending a video to the manufacturer of some heaters that I had gotten. Because the biggest downfall with maintaining tropical fish is your requirement to have heaters in order to keep their tanks warm. Dakota, stop. Excuse me while I talk to my 2-year-old little brother Brat. Or little Brat brother. Something. Stop it, motor. So I had quite a few difficulties. My mom was buying some heaters from a company and they were at a cheaper price, but they seemed to be about the same. And she was trying to help me to expand because in July I broke my elbow in 2 places. I fractured half of the radial head off and I took a chunk out of the ulnar bone. So pretty significant breaks, which in and of themselves sucks, but usually fractures heal. Well, it is now, so that was on July 23rd. It is now January 24th, and my arm has not healed at all. My mom was coming over and assisting me with water changes, and I wasn't lifting anything. I actually had it in a splint for 3 weeks when, with elbow fractures, apparently you're only supposed to have it in a splint for 24 to 48 hours, but I actually fractured my elbow in Atlanta, Georgia, and still had to drive clear across the United States of America with 4 kids, my dad and his wife, in my SUV. And so there wasn't really an option to take the splint off. I didn't have continuous medical care during that period of time. I drove home. It took me 8 days. Yes, yes. Motor, motor. Motor, motor. Oh, turkey. So anyways, I got back home and I sought medical care continuously. Ended up with a splint on for 3 weeks. Couldn't straighten my arm. I've got a pretty good range of motion now, but it's not healed. So I'm going through the process of going from one doctor to another doctor to a different surgeon to physical therapy every week just to keep the range of motion and help with cramping muscles and what have you. So my mom was trying to help me by getting me more heaters and some supplies because now that my arm is broken, I cannot work. I actually stopped working. Well, I stopped childcare in December, at the beginning of December, and I've stopped doing in-home care as of this month. So, And the little turkey here in the background is my 2-year-old little brother. My 4-year-old little sister's in her chair. My 4-year-old and my 11-year-old are in the living room. And speaking of those areas, I have had to move. I'm in the process of moving. There was a problem in my apartment, and apparently the flashing wasn't done correctly, and so we were experiencing dry rot. So, in an emergency basis, I've had to move apartments, which meant moving all of my fish. So, let me show you my not so gorgeous setup at this time, including my little brother in the way, apparently. Motor. You say hi, stink-a-butt. So, I had to move. Cool. I love the siphon hose in the way. That's cute. So, you can see this little vase. I've been siphoning into the vase and having my 11-year-old dump it so that I can get rid of dirty water. A couple of panes of acrylic that I usually have over top of this 20-gallon that I divided last month. Finish it up, baby. You're almost done. And so I have the spawns in there trying to grow out. Now, let's get a closer look at these spawns, because I've been doing the best that I can given my current health situation. So, here is that marble butterfly spawn. Move this siphon hose out of the way because that is really not horribly cute. And I've been using this bucket to also do my water changes. So here is that marble butterfly spawn, and as you can tell, they look significantly different than they did the last time you saw them. Not only are they huge, but they're marbling. And they're turning all sorts of fun colors. But right there is 2 of Gypsy and Mira's sons from my spawn 4 months ago that have been bickering. And over here is actually a, well, other than the white dragon scales, the 2 dragon scales that are in there, these are all a bunch of fish from Tammy's house, from Gypsy and his other girlfriend, Dot, who spawned. Now, Dot being a red, excuse me, pink body with blue iridescence periodically, you will notice a very stark difference between their offspring and Gypsy and Mira's. These are 4 months old. Those are 4 months old. Dragon scales are 4 months old. Most of the dragon scales have sold. Here is a couple of Gypsy and Dot's fry that are a bit bigger. Excuse the dirty box. Like I said, I was in the middle of water changes. So they have very different color pattern than these guys, though, who have a lot more red due to the fact that Mira is red. And then I also have, oh, no help. Is she finished? Yeah. Okay, can you help your aunt with her plate, please? Then I also have the yellow galaxy koi's, my placate spawn that is growing. And even though these guys are 3 days older than these guys, they're half the size. So, and I did call off about 75% of that spawn because it was just so big that I wasn't going to be able to keep up with feeding them correctly, with cleaning, doing any of the water changes adequately. I mean, even with a 40... Dakota, you're not getting down. Now stop. So, I mean, I had to get rid of a lot of them. Hello, TJ's Fish and Reptiles. And so I did call off about 75% of that spawn because there was easily 100 to 300 fry in there. I mean, it was just, it would have been a handful if my arm wasn't broken in 2 places. Put this acrylic back up there. So,
Sister, can we watch something?
Yes, Booty, you may go watch something. Bye, baby. I love you. Now, anybody who keeps multiple fish knows that you have to pick your battles realistically. You have to choose what spawns you're going to keep, what spawns you're not going to keep. And honestly, Gypsy and Mira's fry are 4 months old, and in that 4 months, I have spawned the two of them twice more because she has gotten extremely egg bound every 2 months like clockwork. I swear you can set a calendar by Mira. And both of those spawns I actually fed off. Yes, it is a lot of betta fry. I have quite a few. And so I juggle deciding what spawns to keep, and since I currently have one of their spawns, I chose not to continue to grow out multiple more.
I put myself on that.
Nani, go. Okay, okay. All right. Excuse me. And so, you know, it's choices, and it's juggling, and it's figuring out what works, and what is best, and definitely budgeting resources. So then I'm going to move over here. This is a pair of crown tails. Now this is my 4-year-old crown tail ranger, and that is his pretty little girlfriend, Bella. And I divided this tank for them so that they can still see each other. Okay, motor. So they can interact with each other and they maintain their bond. This is how I choose to keep my bettas, so that when it is time to spawn, it's quick and it's easy. And this is my axolotl toothless, or my betta fry disposal unit, I guess you could call her. She's my pet, and she's beautiful, and I absolutely love her. So that's her tank. Oh no, not yet. You're not getting unbuckled. Then we move into this tank, and in here I actually have 2 separate spawns.
Creamy.
Nani, attends. Je suis mon fils. Attends. So, thank you. I think she's awesome too. So I have 2 spawns in here, and I'm not entirely sure what I'm gonna do with the larger spawn. That is Solo's fry, and anybody who's followed my channel knows who Solo is. She is a single survivor from a spawn with a fry-eating daddy, who I literally siphoned out when she was 24 hours old, and I've had her since day one. But sadly enough, after her father grew up a bit, we discovered that he was a rose tail. My personal beliefs being, I don't like rose petals. Their quality of life is lessened by the fact that their fins grow to be so heavy, and his body was so short that it actually got to a point where, sadly enough, he had to be euthanized. So while I have kept Solo, because she's a female, so she's not afflicted by the fact that she's rose petal, I'm not entirely sure what to do with her spawn. I was able to pair her with a fish called Olohan, who happens to be a medium length dragon scale. And so that makes, I'm hoping that that will cancel some of her rose petal genetics out, so that they have a better quality of life. But that's not guaranteed, so we will see. And then the other spawn, these little much darker ones down here, are Panama and Arrowheads fry. They were actually a surprise spawn, and that goes into part of the complication I've been dealing with. With those heaters, this one's not one of them, actually. This one is. This heater that my mom had gotten, we got several, and I had one in my hospital tank. Motor, stop, baby. that wouldn't keep temperature correctly. I actually had it set to 79 degrees, and I woke up one morning and it was at 99 degrees, and 6 of my adult males, or adult bettas, were dead. They had overheated. They had literally boiled in their hospital jars while I was in the process of trying to divide out a tank, which, as you can see, I use acrylic and sealant and drill holes and measure it and cut it myself. It's a process. It's not easy. With a broken arm, it's even harder. So this is my current racking system for all of my adults. I do daily water changes. I keep them in glass sterile jars that I wash between every single change. A fish never goes into a dirty jar at all. And so but you see the heater in the back. So I had a heater in there and it spiked to 99 degrees. It killed my fish. I also had, so this is part of that dragon spawn right here. That is balefire. And this is another one of the dragon spawn. I lost most of that spawn because of another heater overheating. Horrible situation. It's just a fact of life. It's part of dealing with tropical fish. It absolutely sucks, and I was devastated and heartbroken because I lost their mother. And she was everything. Plus, she produced absolutely beautiful fry, as you can see. And that would have been a really good resource and income for my family, as now I have to stay at home and take care of my kids and try and heal. And so my betta were my sole income. That was how I was going to support my family and take care of myself. See lady's daughter in the back sleeping. Goofy girl. So, I mean, that was part of what I was going through. Then I had to deal with Panama dying. And I'd had her for a year. And she had never spawned. See, this is my 20 that I'm going to divide. And do the heater across the back. And do filters. And divided acrylic to rack all of my adults. And do substrate and plants for nitrates and nitrite system. That way I have the beneficial bacteria as well as filtration. But with my arm, I haven't gotten there. Now that I have to move, still haven't gotten there. So it's not the most sophisticated system. It kind of looks insane right now, and I really want to organize. But it's just one thing after another. This is part of taking care of bettas. So I lost Panama. I don't know what I'm going to do with solo spawn. I have to watch and see how they develop and how they grow and what quality of life they're going to have, because I am not of the mind or the heart to sell or gift betta to people that are going to have a crappy quality of life. I'm just not. I think that it is ethically wrong for a lot of these morphs to be on the market, because the fish suffer and the people who love them and become attached to them suffer. And it's devastating. You learn their personalities. These are not just regular fish. These fish have personalities. They are interesting animals. They interact with you. They will respond to you. And when you get used to that, and then suddenly you have to watch their fins weigh them to the bottom to the point where they can't get to the surface and breathe. They are literally drowning in their own tanks. And it's not swim bladder. They are nipping at their fins in order to lighten the load, realistically, which then you have to deal with infections, which is another part of what I've been going through and why I haven't been on, because one of my long-time bettas, one that started the whole thing, his fins got too heavy and he was fin nipping, and he got a really bad infection that actually went into his tail. Not his fin, not his caudal fin, but his tail. back end of his body. And he got really sick, and I had to euthanize him. And that one was so hard to deal with. So it's just, I've experienced a lot of loss lately, and a lot of heartbreak lately, and a lot of disappointment, and a lot of frustration, and quite a few emergencies. It's just apparently not my 6 months, put it that way. But I'm not going to let it deter me or stop me from trying to share this love and trying to share this hobby, because I really believe that these animals are so extraordinary that they need to be shared. They need to be loved. Yeah, they can be picky eaters. DJ, I have found that they can be, and that can be hard. It depends on how they were bred. In particular, my fry, when they are this size, they eat live brine shrimp. They're kept with Indian almond leaves and tannins. They're very small, though. And these are my gold placots that were actually spawned on January 5th, which happens to be my dad's birthday. So, and they start off with brine, but then by the size of solo spawn, they are eating worms. I do tubiflex worms. I do vinegar eels, micro worms, brine. They've gone off of Infansoria by then. That spawn is actually taking first bites. I feed Mira's spawn everything. I rotate between live Daphnia, live brine. That's actually what they had yesterday. They get live tubiflex worms. They also get the it's empty right now, but the Hikari tubiflex worms cubes. And I kind of get a kick out of it. I will soak the cubes in the tank water for a little bit, and then I pull it apart with my nails, with my artificial nails, and hold it and feed them. But I feed them everything so that when somebody takes them home, you don't have to go, oh, I can't get my betta to eat. Because I've had that. I've actually had bettas that literally would not eat anything but a pellet. And I prefer to feed live because I feed daily. And then I had to keep in mind that that betta won't eat live. So I can't feed that betta every single day because it takes longer for the food to process through their system. And I don't want my fish to get bloated. I don't want them to get constipated, especially if they won't eat live, because then I can't give them Daphnia to release it, you know? So I condition all of my fry to accept like as many things as I can possibly come across. From as soon as they're like a month old, I start introducing pellets, and I will introduce dehydrated foods and still continue to feed live. This is a lot of brine, and it's kind of an odd system, but this is a 2-liter bottle that I have a Dutch Brothers straw and an air stone on, and I have salt water, a 5-gallon bucket of salt water on hand, like my acrylic. See, I have plans, people. I'm also going to try a little system. I'm dinking around with some screen. You guys can stare at Solo and Olohan. It's a fun tank to look at while I yammer. So I feed a significant amount of brine every 12 hours. When they're little, they get fed 4 to 6 times a day. When they get bigger, they get fed twice a day. My adults get fed once a day. Now, that is not to say that Solo, who is 6 months old, she gets fed once a day now. Hi, Olohan. Hi, handsome boy. Did you pretty boy? And see, that's one of their fry. That's Solo and Olohan's baby. That one was actually really big first and was picking on the rest of his spawn, so I pulled him out. But they're almost caught up to him, so he can go back in. But like my fry down there in my racking system, the offspring of Lady, they get fed twice a day still because they're only 4 months old. Their siblings get fed twice a day because they're only 4 months old. At 6 months, I drop it down to once a day. I also start reducing their temperature so that they're not growing as fast. And he knows he's pretty. That's the problem. Oh, you like the damage on his tail? That is from a guppy. A guppy fry, nonetheless. A guppy fry literally bit his tail. I was like, are you kidding me? So, they can be picky eaters. They can be persnickety. It depends on how they were raised when they were young. I try and set mine up to have the best chances at life. I'm not seeing very much die off. I mean, I do cull them, and sometimes when they're smaller, I'll throw them in with the bigger fish to be eaten and recycled, or I will freeze them and feed them to my axolotl. I don't tend to put live fish in with her because she's kind of goofy and she likes to play with them. I'm not gonna lie, she will like hang out with them. She thinks they're pet. She thinks she needs a pet. She doesn't realize she is a pet and she has pet snails, and that's realistically enough. So she won't really eat them very quickly, and a couple of them have actually gotten hungry enough that they went after her gills. And then she got an infection. And then I had to learn about fridging and axolotl. So that's not something I'm really interested in doing. Yes, my axolotl plays with her food. She's goofy. No, not unbuckle. You're silly. So, I mean, it's been a lot. I'm kind of overwhelmed with loss and just trying to catch up, trying to keep up, and trying to mostly get my racking system the way that I want it to be. Because while doing daily water changes in half-gallon jars with heated water circulating around them, you should get an axolotl. I like the melanoids specifically. I'm not into the glows. My mom has 2 albinos, and a couple of friends have talked about getting leucistics. I like the melanoid. While, it works, they're warm, they're in clean water, they're fed live. I literally change their water, and I mean like 100% water change. I dump their water and redo it every single day, no matter how much I hurt, no matter how tired I am. I still do it. I would really like to have the 20 divided so that it's filtered, it's heated all the way through, and I don't have to do the daily water changes. But my biggest thing is I actually have all these little pieces of decor. I'm sure you noticed in Solo's tank that there's an angel and there's a hand and there's houses, and she's got plants and she's got rocks and she's got sand. I want to do that for all of my fish, because several of these fish I've had for a long time and they do prefer plants. I can't put plants in their jar. It's too much. And some of them do prefer to not have plants, but they like marbles. They like the rocks. They like to rub on them. They like to bury their head in them and go to sleep. I have about had a stroke a few times because I thought some of my bettas were dead, but they were literally burying their head in their marbles to sleep, which is weird. But because of each of their individual personalities, I like to decorate their home to fit them. And I can't do that in a jar. And I'd really like to. Perfect example. Let's take a look at Gypsy and Mira. Gypsy, the forever breed happy daddy who loves having his babies. And then Miss Mira. Again, another example of how I keep them together. If they are a mated pair, they're kept together so that their bond stays good. And there's Kahlo and Thaulo. Gypsy doesn't like a filter. Mira hates the bubbles. So that works out really well. They don't care for the plant. They don't care about the marbles. But it's cute. And it's symmetric to this side. This cup, if you look at it very closely, you can actually see a faint etching. And that is actually a K carved into this glass for Kahlo. He likes plants. Loves plants. He also really likes bubbles. He plays in them. So he gets the filter. He gets the bubbles. Thaulo, the only thing Thaulo likes is Kahlo and food. She's constantly trying to jump out of her little isolation tube for food. And so, I mean, like, if they like certain things, I try and give it to them. Solo loves plants. She is currently stuck in Olohan's apartment, whereas this is usually flip-flopped. It's usually Solo out and Olohan in his apartment. She's in there because, well, she was eating my Panda Guppy fry. And because she ate the Panda Guppy fry, she actually filled up with eggs quicker than I really wanted. So until the pandas are out, she is experiencing some minor restrictions. And Olohan, who is a very good daddy and doesn't eat his babies and also does not eat anything else and will run from the panda guppies rather than chase them, he gets to be free. And he's so stinking pretty. And Solo loves looking at him. Isn't she just pretty? I love her. She's absolutely stunning. Such a pretty girl. So, I mean, and she's had this house since she was a baby. She loves plants. So I have several different kinds of plants in with her. These are more for me. And that was actually her mother's decor. But Silver Dollar passed away. So I gave Solo her decor. But she will actually go in the candle compartment in the back. And she will sit there. She like gets tired and sits there. Or she overeats, gets weighed down by her fat belly, and then sits there. So it is what it is. I like to do this individualized scheme because while some fish really don't care, bettas do. They have their preference. If I were to put, who would it be? Well, if I were to put Nightmare, per se, this little guy right here, if I were to put him in that tank, he would have every leaf ripped off of my plants, bamboo included. Ricky Flair over here, my golden plakat with his beautiful chalcopyrite in the back, he jumps. So this little slit in the lid for air hosing and feeding, yeah, he'd be out of that. He jumps, which is why there's a panel of acrylic on top of him. Skylander also jumps. My pretty little white and blue grizzle. He was over here with my tiger koi the other day. So, I mean, they have personalities. They all do their own thing. They all have their own ideas about what they want and how they want it and what they're going to do to get that done. Just, it is what it is. That's who they are. Bettas have personalities, and anybody who says otherwise does not know betta fish. Yeah, jumpy fish. I call them frogs. A lot. I tell them that they're leapfrogs. Because puddle hoppers is, yeah, it's a very adequate name for these little grumpy faced dudes. But I just thought I would give everybody an update and a check-in, because I know I've been missing for a while and I haven't been around. It's not that I've stopped with bettas or that I've lost my passion. I'm just kind of coping and dealing. And anybody who has kept a number of bettas for a while can relate to the fact that you get attached. You would have to be heartless not to fall in love. And when something happens to them, it takes you down a few pegs. It really does. Well, I'm going to release my 2-year-old little brother because everybody can hear in the background that he's been going, out, out, unbuckle, help, help, let me out of my high chair, let me out of my high chair, let me out, for the last 36 minutes. Alright, well, you all have a good day. Take care of yourselves. If you have the opportunity, make a shrimp terrarium or aquarium, whatever, in a cool little piece of decor. Because I actually bought these from my local pet store, Animal House, and I absolutely love them. Talk to y'all later.